Hey, Metaphysics Mike. I'm Julian. I want to explain Jesus to you real quick. You see, this Bryce guy, he's having a lot of trouble understanding it. I don't know why he presents things that he doesn't understand. So here's the thing about Jesus being fully God and fully man. God is called in John 1 in Greek logos, which is the root of the word logic. So God is thought, the faculty of thought. That's what God is, okay? That's what it means for God to dwell with men. It means for men to be thoughtful, all right? So I don't know what your position is on this, but the biblical position is that thought does not originate from the brain. It originates, I don't know. Does it have an origin? Well, according to the Bible, no. It's just a forever thing. But that the brain is, as a receptor, it receives thought, or it receives God, so that God can operate the body and through the human form create all things. So yeah, I don't know what that Bryce J guy's talking about. He's confused. But now you, Metaphysics Mike, now you understand Jesus. Oh, wait. There's more. Okay, so I encourage you, and I'm operating on the assumption that you haven't read the New Testament because you don't seem to understand Jesus either. And that's okay. And there was a time when I didn't myself, you know. But you have these three symbolic stories, and then you have a Jew called Paul who writes letters explaining what the stories mean. And it is crystal clear, if you are paying attention to what the man says, especially if you are observing it in Greek. I mean, you might know this, that Greek is the language of explanation. It explains, there's a word to explain everything in Greek. Paul explains that to the Corinthians specifically. Now, if you look at the etymology of Corinthian and you have a symbolic mind, Hebrew is a symbolic language, and he was a Hebrew-speaking Jew. The Corinthians are not just a people who live in a place called Corinth. It's deeper than that. It's thoughtful people. He's talking to people who think. He said, you are the body of Christ and members individually. Okay. 1 Corinthians 12. Think about this, Mike. You have a nose. You have eyebrows. For that matter, you have eyes. Ears, fingers, all these different parts, yet there is one Metaphysics Mike. You are diversity and unity in one body. Even so is Jesus, except Jesus is more than just hands and feet and a nose. You and I, Mike, and all people, we are different members in the body of Jesus, even like your hands and your toes are different members in the body of Metaphysics Mike. So, God, aka Spirit, aka thought, the mind, which is the supreme ruler, right? The idea is that it wants to govern the body, because the whole point of the mind and the body is to work in unison. All right? The body belongs to the mind because the mind cannot interact with the world except through the body of man. All right? So the body of man is how the mind interfaces with the earth. And it is, through it that anything is created. Has a man ever created something without having thought and understanding? No. Thought, understanding, this is uniquely the power of God. The mind. So, what does it mean for Jesus to be fully God and fully man? I mean, he was a man just like you and me, Mike. But he was a man who had he wasn't given to selfish inclinations, to the typical indulgences of a human being. He had turned away from these, and in doing so, he was a pure vessel for thought, because where the body is glorified, where the body has the things that pleases it, the mind, there's no space for the mind. The body's not concerned with what is true. The body's concerned with what feels right, what feels good. Anger, envy, wrath, that's redundant, gluttony, etc. It's really simple, and this is not exclusive to Christianity or Judaism. All religions across the world are fundamentally about the same thing: mind-body coherence. And in Jesus Christ, the reason that he's able to make impossible things happen is because he's not one man. He's a multitude of people bound together by one mind, which gives love and understanding to all of them. And also things like water into wine, multiplication of loaves and of fish. These things are simple Hebrew symbols. So if you learn about Proto-Sinaitic Hebrew, which was in turn corrupted into Phoenician, in turn corrupted into Greek, which was in turn corrupted into Latin, and separately, it was replaced by Aramaic, which replaced the symbols. The symbol of blood became water. Blood becomes water. Sun, or, earthly continuity of the mind becomes a fish. Things like that. So the Bible makes sense. You have to consider it as a Hebrew, which is a person who thinks. If you consider it as just a mindless man who just believes what he's told because of the tradition of believing what you're told, well, then you're never going to understand it. God, gave manna to the Hebrews when they were in the desert. The desert, Egypt is slavery, so they had turned away from their bodies. We all are slaves to our bodies. Sin, we call it. We're slaves to our whims until we make a deliberate effort not to be beholden to our bodies anymore and to do things that make sense instead of just things that feel good. This is going through the desert. God gave them manna to eat. They said, we would rather be slaves in Egypt than to be here in this desert. At least we were never hungry, right? They were just still trying. They wanted to give in to their mortal whims. God gave them manna from heaven. God, your mind. Heaven comes from the Hebrew word eben, which is God, body, continuity. Manna is translated as, what is it? What is it? So God gave them the power to think, to ask questions that they may understand how to get out of this here desert, as opposed to just suffering because they're there. It's all about mind-body coherence. Bryce J is retarded. I mean that genuinely, not to be mean, unless we're talking about Greek. In Greek, I'm a very mean guy. Well, let me keep it to Latin so that I don't come off as English mean. He is nice. He's a nice guy. When I say he's retarded, I just mean that there are things in his way of understanding that Jesus is mind-body coherence between all people. One body, my friend. Love you, brother. Good content. Take care.